Great. Welcome everybody to the Wednesday, November 12th, Garrison Board of Education regular workshop business meeting. Dusty Lee, please call the roll.
Jocelyn Apicello. Here. Eric Arnold.
Here.
Jennifer Harrington Wilson. Here. Dan Jasnow.
Here.
Peter Lesser.
Here.
Ken Schott.
Excused.
Sarah Tormey. Here.
Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I have one quick agenda change. I just wanted to move item 5B up to item 5A. So we'll switch 5A and 5B. Does anyone else have any agenda changes? Okay. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby accepts the agenda as amended. All in favor? Motion.
Motion.
Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Good. Moving on to item 3, the superintendent's report.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to move up here because every time I use the clicker, it doesn't advance. Maybe I'll have more luck on the podium. I'm not saying anything more important than I did last time. So this is the superintendent's report. It's a little bit longer because we have a lot of things to celebrate and B to kind of go over. I want to talk a little bit about our Fox Sports end of the year wrap up. I did ask if any students would like to come tonight and join me at the podium to talk about their season, and unfortunately we had no takers because they're all at home doing homework, studying, and getting ready for the end of the quarter. But we had an incredibly successful year. I've been updating the board and the community with the past couple meetings, but our football team did exceptionally well. All of our 3 Guffs kiddos our student athletes were starters. And they didn't have a lot of games. They're 2-1-1, so that's a winning record. But there was a lot of growth. Again, modified football, 8-on-8 is very instructional, and the students, athletes learn a lot of skills. It's really important in football. Without those proper skills, more risk of injury and things of that nature. Both of our soccer teams are incredibly talented soccer teams. Our boys soccer had a 7-2-1 record. Hard work, growth, really talented group of kids. Big team. We had 2 coaches, but we wanted to make sure all students got an opportunity to play that wanted to play. And the kids did exceptionally well. And look out when these student athletes get to high school. I think the soccer team, wherever they go, are going to be really, really great soccer teams. And the same for our girls soccer. They were also 7-2. Beat the boys because they didn't tie. They have a 7-2 record clean. So again, remarkable growth, teamwork, constant improvement. I got to see a couple of the games for the boys and girls, and from the early to the late games, the improvement I just saw as a bystander was remarkable. So great job to our coaches. They did a remarkable job, Mr. Keegan, and also Coach Beckley, who also helped support the boys soccer team. So, and our cross country did also well. We had 9 student athletes from Garrison, and all of our athletes, they only had 5 meets, but they had strong showings in all of them. So I would say all in all, a very successful modified fall season for the Garrison School, and always want to thank our partners at Haldane for ensuring that our students have both schools have a robust opportunity to participate in interscholastic sports. And also winter season, we're ready to kind of kick it off, and so official start date is November 17th. We also had a lot since our last board meeting go on in our schools. I just want to take a few seconds to recognize a few happenings at Guffs, and one is our annual 8th grade trip to Statue of Liberty as part of our social studies unit, and this is the second time I heard this response. Bystanders who were there made a comment to our staff about how well behaved our students were. This is the second year in a row that I heard that with not for any reason than just bystanders being really struck by how well behaved our kids were. And that's a testament to the culture and the type of kids and the type of families we have here. So that was a successful trip. Last Friday, we honored our veterans during their special assembly. We are absolutely deeply grateful for their service, and I want to thank Krista DiDiego, who kind of like spearheads this whole event. It was really remarkable. The PTA provided breakfast for our 8th graders and our veterans that were here. It was a really moving and impactful assembly and event. And last, on Election Day, while students weren't here, our teachers were hard at work, and we had a really dynamic, and I want to thank Mike McDonald, we had a really dynamic professional learning conference day where a lot was going on. Teachers had individual schedules. We were doing things from curriculum mapping to CPR training to innovative teaching techniques. You name it, we did it. And it was time well worth having students not here because it's going to pay dividends in the future. For those community members that are tired of getting Parent Square emails from me about our safety and security survey, I just want to ask our families to please consider responding to the survey. As of this morning, we only had 47 parent or guardian responses. In order for us to make decisions and really have some valid data, we really need a lot more responses. Considering we have 206 students enrolled in our building, 47 isn't a huge percentage of our parents and guardians and caretakers. So the good news is the survey is still open, and so then it closes on 14th. So if you have an opportunity, please make sure you complete it. And just for the community to know, Krista DiDiego also sent out Parent Square information just for 5th to 8th graders that she will be during her SEL time helping the students that want to participate in the survey too, because having their voice in this grades 5 to 8 will give us a robust response and allow us to talk about what are the results of the survey and what's the impact of our new safety and security measures. Maybe it's not the podium. Maybe it's the pilot, not the plane. Couple reminders, it is getting colder out there. I did see some snowflakes this weekend. They didn't accumulate to anything, but as our community knows, we have some roads that are difficult to traverse, particularly with the 68 passenger bus, and I think what we did last year was successful. For some of our roads, we have our inclement weather bus stops, and it's really important. We did update them, and I want to thank Joe and his team in transportation to update them that if we have a day where maybe we could be delayed or have school, but it's just a couple of these roads such as Avery, Old Post, Travis Corners, Indian Brook, those roads, if we can open school but use these alternative bus stops, we will do so, and we will let parents know. This information is available on our transportation website, and I just want to remind the community that these things are updated, and we may use them, which will allow us to open schools when without these we probably couldn't. Last, a couple happenings, just a reminder, on the 26th is early dismissal. Pre-kindergarten is 11, K through 8 is 11:15, and that's a half day right before the Thanksgiving break, which is the 27th and 28th. Couple other early dismissals, the 4th and the 11th of December are early dismissals as well for our parent-teacher conferences. We have a board meeting on the 10th, and please mark this in your calendars. We have a holiday concert on the 17th of December at 7 p.m. I've been listening to our students practice, our chorus, our jazz rock ensemble, our band. They sound incredible. I feel like they keep getting better year after year. So mark your dates. I believe, Dusty, right, the 18th is the snow date. So if for some reason it gets canceled, the next day will be the snow date, and we'll be sending reminders out in Allison's weekly. And that concludes my superintendent's report for the evening. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Greg. Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Stoll? All right, moving right along to item 4, which is President's remarks. I really don't have much to add. I thank you to Sarah for filling in for me at the last meeting. I think it was a little while ago at this point, three weeks ago. Just want to say thank you to everybody that pitched in for all the events in the community over the last couple of weeks. I was at the Halloween parade, which is always a treat. We did it in the gym this year, but it was a lot of fun. I know a lot goes into that. PTA also did Boograms, which I think was a successful fundraiser that I think the kids really enjoyed. So obviously a lot of great things going on in the community, and belated Happy Veterans Day to the many veterans in our community. Okay, moving on to new item 5A, which is going to be discussion and acceptance of the donation. So I'm going to read the resolution first, and then we'll talk about this one. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, in accordance with District Policy 5230, does hereby accept a donation from Tina Park and Peter Lesser in the amount of $85,000 for the purpose of funding a STEAM Makerspace lab in the Garrison School Learning Commons. And be it further resolved that the general fund budget be amended to reflect the donation for the funds to be used for the purposes set forth in this resolution. And further, the district clerk is directed to draft a letter of thanks on behalf of the board president and superintendent. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. So this is obviously, an item we're very excited about, and very grateful to Pete and Tina for making this opportunity available to the district. I'm going to first turn it over to Dr. Stoll to talk a little bit about what we envisioned for this and provide a little bit of context about how it came together.
Yeah, so first let me talk a little bit about how this came together. And both Peter and Tina came to us and said we would really like to think about how we can give back to the district. And I never imagined it would be as generous as it is. And we bounced a couple ideas, and one of the ideas was we have this beautiful space here in the Learning Commons, and right behind us is a space that is underutilized. And we talked a little bit about what our students maybe could benefit from that they don't have right now. And that is the area of STEAM, and we've talked about it as a board. So this donation is an incredibly charitable donation and so generous. Really does align to what the district is trying to do, is create an environment where kids can and teachers can explore science, technology, engineering, math. So think of it as a makerspace, think of it as a general use where we could really start to push the edge of the envelope. And behind us, it is kind of a catch-all space that we use. And so we talked a lot about, had a series of meetings and talked a lot about what this could be in the future. And we look forward to, because of their generous donation, the possibilities for our students and our staff in a very short order are going to be numerous. And so that's how this came to be, and we look forward to getting some ideas from our staff, getting ideas from the board, getting ideas from other stakeholders on what we can imagine the space to be in the future.
Great, thank you. Did any board members want to make a comment, Pete, or anyone else?
Well, Tina's gonna.
Yeah, we're gonna, so we'll do the vote.
Okay.
Any other questions?
All the teams speak first.
Okay. Questions or comments?
I'll jump in and just say this is incredibly generous, and I think at a wonderful time for our district. One of the things I've been most impressed with recently, just through committee meetings, is how open our staff is right now to, I think it's also just like being on committees with staff members, which I usually doesn't happen because they're not on it. But they're so open to new ideas and sharing. So I think this is coming at such a wonderful time where it will be really fully utilized under the direction of our administration, and I put so much good use. So it's incredibly generous. Thank you so much. And I'm excited to see what happens.
I agree with Sarah that this is a perfect time and something that we all have been like kind of chomping for. So excited.
your generosity speaks volumes, and my only hope is just that, you know, we all, as a district, as a community, live up to the generosity and make sure that we exceed your wildest expectations and ambitions that you envision upon making this donation. That's now up to us as a district, and I hope we and everybody don't let you down.
So we'll do the vote and then take a quick pause. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Great. Thank you very much. So I do just want to take another moment to really just thank both of you for this incredibly generous donation. You know, I think it's going to make a huge difference for the community, and as Dr. Stoll said, it's going to really allow us to accelerate the investments that we have already been planning in STEAM facilities and programming here at the district, which aligns with the goals that the board has already set of adopting next generation learning standards and transforming what has been so far an underutilized space into an area that I think is really going to be a thriving, dynamic center of the school. As Dr. Stoll also said, you know, I think it's important that Pete and Tina also share the district's goal of ensuring that this new space does align with those educational needs. We want to make sure this is a space that students will really utilize, the teachers will want to utilize, and then it'll be fully integrated in with our curriculum, that it's thoughtfully equipped, and that, you know, we make over the next couple of years really deliberate and thoughtful decisions about how this space is going to be an added component of the innovative curriculum, next generation learning standards, making sure we do that process really thoughtfully. It's very important. I know it is to you guys, it is to the board as well. I also just want to note that by choosing to make this gift to our public school here in Garrison, you guys are really increasing educational equity, improving educational equity in this district, making these resources available to students regardless of income, ability to pay. I think that is something that is, you know, really important. It's one of the you know, great things that public education can do, and I think by choosing to do that here, it's a great commitment to the district, and it's really going to leave a lasting legacy both for our current students and for students to come. So thank you both, you know, so much for this incredible donation. We really look forward to working with both of you, and want to welcome Tina up to make any comments you would like to make.
Thank you. Oh. Oh, okay. I'm very loud, so. I have to. Let it be known that I did not use the step stool. Okay. Thank you, everyone. It's just going to take a few minutes of your time this evening. So, lots of thank yous to start out with, just to this board for generously supporting the school with your time. Thanks to your partners who generously take care of house and children while you're at these meetings. And I just want to start off with just the last thank you, which is for unanimously being open to this opportunity to create this space and taking the time to listen to my thoughts and hopes that one day this space will become a place where students can come to discover, invent their future selves. So just a little bit of story behind the funds. They would not be possible without Pete's dad and grandmother, who would be thrilled to know that there is a space being developed for kids to be kids, and where they can play and maybe even escape, tinker, explore. Pete's grandmother never believed in frivolous spending and would always choose a vacuum cleaner or a new mattress over a decorative trinket as a housewarming gift. So this is how we kind of see the space. It may start off shiny and new, but after some time it kind of becomes one with the school. It's so functional, it's mundane, it becomes a standard, a haven, perhaps a beacon for kids that maybe aren't into traditional school activities like dodgeball or field trips. A place where the new pancake robot will come to town, where the next mechanical throwdown can take root, and where the brainy bunch can recruit, form teams, and create lasting bonds that shape them into good citizens. So I'm clear that this vision will take some time to build. I don't operate under any illusion that we will be a bustling, thriving maker center immediately. But I also believe that, I don't believe that if we build it, they will come. Perhaps if we had Kevin Costner in his prime. But my career has been built on the premise that the success of anything, healthcare, waiting spaces, support programs, tools, is critically dependent on the inclusion of the user voice. And as I've heard this evening, I found that the user voice can sometimes lead us to unexpected places. And I ask that the board be open to where our teachers, present students, past students may lead us, and that we prioritize their participation in the building, programming, and evolution of this space. And lastly, I want to share an insight about learning that I thought was really just nice, from cultural essayist Maria Popova. And she says, along the way, we keep confusing experiment and exploration. An experiment proves or disproves an existing theory. Its payoff is data, fixed, binary. An exploration is a traversal of the unknown, of landscapes you didn't even know existed, with all the courage and vulnerability and openness to experience that demands. Its payoff is discovery of unimagined wonders, of yourself in the face of the unimagined. Discovery in its purest form is nothing less than revelation. I'm excited to provide this arena to explore and discover, and I can't wait to see what new inventions and grand ideas that Knox and Zora, my two kids, which I didn't introduce myself in the very beginning, sorry, but that Knox and Zora and all others will bring home. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time to share the words with us.
Yeah.
I know that this is going to be a success because hearing you talk about it, I know that there's so much alignment in the vision and the way that we want this to happen, the collaborative nature of it, putting students first. I think it's so exciting because I think there's so much shared vision in the way that we want this to come together, and it's great to hear the context of Pete's grandmother and how this all came together. So thank you guys. We are really incredibly generous. We're really looking forward to moving this project forward and making a lasting impact on the students. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, we will move on to item now 5B, which is discussion and approval to revise the substitute rates of pay. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, hereby approves the revised rates of pay for certified and non-certified per diem substitutes and the rate of pay for substitute school nurses effective November 12, 2025 as follows. So certified substitute teachers at $140 per day, non-certified substitute teachers at $125 per day, and substitute nurses at $225 per day. May I have a motion?
Second.
So just quickly on this, Dr. Stoll and Sarah and I talked a little bit about the rates, and just want to make sure that they are at a level, just a little bit of a bump up of where we have been, but we want to make sure that they're at a level that is competitive enough that we will be able to attract and hopefully close some of the deals with substitute certified nurses in particular, our substitute certified substitute teachers and substitute nurses, but all of our substitutes. It's been an area that's been a little bit of a pain point in the past where we've had trouble getting people to stay. So we think that these levels get us up just to a point where that should hopefully be a little bit less of a pain point. Anything else on that?
Well, just that we did canvass about 19 districts and we shared that with the board. So these rates, they are not the highest, but they are at least more competitive. So that, as the board knows, there's been a couple people that have kind of accepted it and then had second thoughts, and those second thoughts had to do with the daily rate of pay. So we hope that this will at least get us closer to what is competitive in the region, and as Dan said, help to close some of these deals more permanent.
Yeah, and the total, we asked Joe to run the financial numbers. The total impact, even from this adjustment, is still pretty minor. Any other questions or comments?
What is the pretty minor?
I think it's about $5,000. It would be about $5,000 more at these rates total than it was last year at the same usage rates.
I would just add that I feel confident that the administration is really only using substitutes when needed and it's well planned. I mean, there are sicknesses and whatnot, but in terms of like trying to put professional learning on days such as when students aren't in is really helpful because then you don't need a substitute to do it. So I feel confident in those numbers that we're not just explode in need for substitute as well.
Yeah, we've been pretty consistent, and we looked at the past number of usage, and so when we come up with the dollar amount, and as Dan said, for like our sub-certified teachers, we looked at the days utilized last year, and that was pretty consistent. We don't overuse them, but we do use them, quite a bit during the year. Because we are so small, we don't have, the ability and flexibility to kind of use other teachers to kind of cover classes like some districts do. They can do period by period coverages and not have to utilize subs. We don't have that luxury here in Garrison. But like I said, I think these rates are a little more competitive in the region.
Any other questions or comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, moving on to item 5C, which is the superintendent's goals, and we'll turn this over to our superintendent.
Yeah, just very briefly, I just wanted to share with the board, who already has a copy of my superintendent's goals, but also the community. The superintendent's goals are closely aligned with the board goals, which are closely aligned with the district goals. And I'll just, from a broad brush stroke, we're going to look at long-range facilities planning, all of that. Part of the facility, if you're part of the facilities committee, we're looking at that. But we're also looking at not just to kind of like keep our envelope all set and secure in our parking lots and curb. That's important, yes, we'll continue to do that in our roofs. But we also want to look at making sure that spaces provide high quality educational experience. So if we're talking about the work that we're exploring about our outdoor education in the classroom, or even the work that we're now can publicly talk about doing behind me, part of long-range facilities planning is also ensure that those instructional spaces are utilized to the fullest, and you get your return on investment in that. We're also going to look at our long-range financial planning. Very important in this community that we make smart investments, that we're fiscally responsible, that we stay within our tax levy cap, and we look at also making those investments in the future in terms of promoting next generation learning standards, as Dan said. So there will be some investments there, but we're going to do it smartly, we're going to do it wisely, we're going to do it fiscally, in a fiscal responsible way. I don't want to steal some thunder of the planning committee when they make their report, but one of my goals is to, working with Mike McDonald, is to make sure that the district starts to begin the process of having curriculum maps. We don't have that as a district. It's really important that we do so. Also, we already started our work on curriculum development and 5-year educational, environmental educational planning. We have a committee made up of stakeholders, students, and faculty and board members looking at that. That is a huge goal for us from the instructional realm. We'll continue, Dan, I think Dan, we've mentioned it before, to engage our community and volunteer and service. But we will continue to try to communicate using traditional and our whole communication system, but we also will try to do outreach and cultivate partnerships with community members, families, community-based organizations. The lastly is we do, and we have a committee with teachers, working with negotiating a new teacher evaluation system that is consistent with 3012E, or the STEPS program, and really start to move away from compliance, to move away from sort of checking the box, to one that is integrated with our professional learning practices. It is integrated to teacher autonomy and setting goals and working collaboratively to move the ball forward for next generation learning standards. So those are, in general, the goals from my office, if you will, for the
this 25-26 school year.
Great, thank you, Greg. And as you said, I think, you know, these very much align with the board goals that we had discussed, which, you know, not to beat a dead horse, but probably will a lot, you know, next generation learning standards, innovation, leveraging our environmental resources, our environmental education, and figuring out how we can do that in a way that delivers real results, quantifiable results to the students of the district, and in a way that aligns with our teachers' plans and long-term curriculum development. So I think that all sounds great. Does anyone have any questions or comments on superintendent's goals? All right, moving along to our first public comment section. This is item 6. Public comment is intended for members of the community to speak openly and voice concerns. In accordance with policy 1510 of the Garrison Union Free School District, any person wishing to speak shall comply with all provisions of this policy. Comments about specific school personnel or individual students is a violation of board policy. Concerns regarding students or personnel should be discussed privately with the superintendent or appropriate administrator. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes, and speakers are asked to conduct themselves in a respectful manner. The board will listen to comments but will not engage in dialogue. Any necessary follow-up will be noted and provided through the appropriate channel. Members of the public wishing to comment during board meetings are asked to place their name and town of residence on the sign-in sheet. Commenters will be invited to the podium to address the board. Would anybody like to address the board? No? Okay, we have nobody signed up, so we will close public comment and move on to item 7 on the agenda, which is acceptance of the minutes. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District does hereby accept the minutes of the regular business meeting of October 22nd, 2025 as presented. May I have a motion? Any questions or comments on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Item 5.8, financial reports. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby accepts the claims audit report for October 2025 as presented. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have any comments on claims audit report?
No.
Great. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Item 9A, Policy Committee report from Chair Jennifer Harrington-Wilson.
Hi, so the policy committee met on November 6th. We met and talked about 13 different items. 5 that were recommended by the Erie One Policy Service, 6 that were recommended for annual review, and 2 related to Garrison specific matters. In terms of the 5 recommendations by Erie One, we are recommending that policy 5413, procurement, uniform grant guidance for federal awards, have the first meeting tonight. The main changes in this policy, there was a lot of realignment of language, but there was a change that says that we will give preference to U.S. companies and companies that use recycled materials when we're making procurements. So we're recommending that for our first meeting tonight. One optional policy, which is about cybersecurity and incident response. We, as a board, we had discussed that we wanted to be leaner on policies, but we also felt as a committee that our procedures and practices already cover this, and it's already in place, so there wasn't a need to have a policy on top of that. And then 3 other policies were sent to the attorneys for review. Dusty at a recent board clerk meeting came back and learned that 6 policies are recommended for a review annually, and we'll note that so that we do that next year in September. Of those, a code of conduct, the board completed that in August. The staff acceptable use policy, there was no action needed. And the other ones, there are 4 others we have asked that our staff review it. It might not come that we need to make any changes, or there might not be any recommendations, but just to be sure that internally we're reviewing those policies and make sure they're aligned with practice. So that's going to be done. And then we had 2 specific policies that we talked about that are related to matters here at Garrison. The first one is the wellness policy, 5661. And now that we have a school lunch program, you may remember when we looked at that policy, which we revised last year, we took out all of the references to the student lunch program. So now obviously we have to work to put that back in. So this was referred to the attorney to have that put back in. And then the other policy you're talking about is a policy that we would need, the sports and athletic program policy 7420. And we discussed the need to have this policy specifically for Garrison students who wish to play on high school teams while they're still here at Garrison. And we wanted to have a conversation with the board about it. So we noted that because students can't play across divisions, this policy would only apply to Haldane and Putnam Valley, so students who are choosing to go there. And we wanted input from the full board on the following suggestions. And the first one is that this option can only be considered if there is a contract in place for high school students for the following school year. The second is that the option should be limited to 8th graders only, and it should be for varsity sports only. That's the third. The fourth is that Garrison should be responsible for assessing whether the student meets specific physical benchmarks. So before even being able to apply to the district that they hope to attend high school in, they would have to meet those requirements as assessed by a Garrison staff member. And then finally, that the student could only apply to play for the district that they both select for 9th grade. So we just wanted some comments and feedback from the entire board on that.
Thanks, Jen. So I'm very much in alignment with those suggestions for the policy. I think, as we've talked about previously, I think we view this as a situation that would apply to the most athletically advanced students. I think the first principle in this whole discussion is that we want to make the opportunity available for students that qualify. But we also want to make sure that we are continuing to have a robust program here. We certainly don't see this as creating a situation where students just choose that they don't want to play in modified, they want to go play JV in their high school. There are also risks associated with that if they choose not to go to that high school, they lose a year of eligibility. We certainly don't want to allow students to play up who may not be ready to compete at the high school level. So I think that the conditions you outlined make a lot of sense. They would have to qualify for varsity. So I think that just in itself means that this would be restricted to, or it's really, I think it's just that it would only really be appropriate for the students who are competing at the very highest level and are likely ready to be doing that. And there's still, I think, this still allows for a situation where there's an exceptional student athlete, and Garrison isn't going to say, we're not going to let this happen in the right circumstances, but I think this is sort of striking the right balance between being permissive, but also being responsible about both our own programs here and making sure that it's really the students who are sort of most exceptionally qualified to be competing at the highest levels. So those are my thoughts.
A couple of thoughts. I would like to see something that says that the parents will be responsible for transportation. I think that's a key part of it. And then with regard to should be responsible for assessing whether students meet specific physical benchmarks, there is a test that is spelled out. I think in our policy it should spell out what that test is. That's what all other schools are using.
And we just want to be sure that we administer it.
Yes, but just to make sure that we're using the same thing, I think makes it very clear. And I just also want to say that I think there's tremendous benefit to the modified program that we have here. We don't do cuts, we open it up to everyone. It gives kids an opportunity to try sports that they might not otherwise try at still a really young age, like 7th grade is still really young. I think as a culture we've moved to like this idea of specializing in sports so young, and this is a wonderful way in a supportive community to try out something without having to be like the star of the team. So I just want to be careful as we go along and as we move forward with it that we're really looking at our modified program and trying to preserve it as best as possible so that we're opening access to all the kids who want to try these different sports, because I think it's really beneficial. And then the only other question I would have is there are a lot of sports that our high schools offer that we do not have a modified program for. looking to let kids try out for those? Is that the same, or is it only sports we have a modified for? I would just be curious.
The regulation, if I may, the regulation talks about, it's not just because you don't have a sport, let a kid play out.
Yes.
There's a couple exceptions in terms of a couple sports, but the issue is it's still for exceptional athletes. So if it's a sport we don't offer and modified, the same rules should apply, right? Let's say you're a tennis fan, right? We don't offer modified tennis, right? But you would still have to meet the same criteria according to the policy for the 13 K through 8 districts. It's in order to play up, you would have to, not because they're trying to fill roster spots or something like that. You're exceptional. You meet whether it be the APP physical fitness test, there's an evaluation that your skills are exceptional, that you're physically ready, that you're emotionally ready, that you're academically ready. Then that could be an opportunity for someone with exceptional, almost generational skills. And the other thought, just to put it out there, is the regulations also talk about, we're going to limit this to varsity. They do say it has to be expected that you would have 50% or more playing time. That's in the regulations. So all of that stuff we can incorporate into an APP policy for the board. Patrick and I have been talking about this, and I want to make sure that we strike that, and you said it well, strike that nice balance by not allowing any kid to kind of play up and really jeopardizing our modified program, but at the same time providing opportunities for that exceptional athlete based upon criteria that we set to be able to, in all fairness for them, and equity for them, play at a level that is.
I have just one question about the last point. They can only play for the district they will select. So how is that going to be? Because what if you're playing in the fall? When do students select their high school?
Around December 20th or something like that.
Is that an important thing to have, or could they change their mind? And how are we going to enforce and restrict that?
The challenge is if they, let's say they select high school A, or let's say they play for high school A as an 8th grader, and then they decide I'm going to go to high school B. For that season, they would lose eligibility. They'd have to sit in it. So we want to make sure that in our policy, and we also can have paperwork that parents could sign off on, knowing that, according to the New York State High School Public Athletic Association, the transfer rule applies. So we just want informed consent. So having it in policy will make sure that if the parent says, "I didn't know, you didn't tell me,"
right,
we could say it's in policy.
Yeah, but I just wonder if that policy then, or part of the policy, kind of leaves it up to the parents to make that decision. I mean, as opposed to saying you must go to the school that you played for, which is a slightly different thing. Somebody could change their mind, right? They could play in the fall. I don't know what the fall sports are, but then all their friends are going to a different school, and they just say, you know what, that's okay. I don't care about my eligibility. I'm going to change. And I just wondered, again, we tell the parents up front and make them sign something that they lose eligibility. So it's sort of getting there the same way, but it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
I'm
that.
not sure I'm explaining myself.
I think that makes sense. I mean,
You're saying the one they intend to.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just, we want to make clear to the parents and to the kids that if you change your mind, that there's going to be this loss of eligibility. So I think it's really, it's raising the awareness piece more than as a mandate. You should go to the policy committee, you should only play at the school you intend to go to, but that's not necessarily, we don't have to necessarily mandate it. I think we just want to make sure everybody is fully aware.
A mechanism really
if
for
they
us
change
to
their
enforce
mind.
them changing.
I'm looking at some draft language that it's in there in the way you're saying it, Peter. I'll just say it. If a student later attends a different contract at high school, they may be subject to a 1-year ineligibility period for that sport per New York State education regulation. So we did kind of put it in just a warning that
And I think we should also consider, once this is done, once we go through the policy piece, having council just draft up a waiver type of notice for parents to sign that makes that point, and then, to the extent that they're going to be responsible for transportation, anything like that, we might want to think about other waiver language, but, just driving home the point that if they choose to go to Sprout, then, there's going to be there's risk involved, and the parents might have more responsibility for transportation than they otherwise would.
I just had one other question is, and it's probably covered, but liability. You have a Garrison student potentially playing on a away field for high school A or high school B, right?
Yeah.
So is that all covered in the existing state language, or in our language, or in those schools' language?
And we can double check with attorneys, but since it's in regulation, once that other district has a board resolution to accept that, then they take liability in terms of, they accept that student as part of their interscholastic sports program. So they then take the liability, partial liability, you know. It's not like they're not covered by the receiving district under their sports process.
And if the student's injured, the injury process claim will go through their insurance, not ours.
That I could double check with
That's
counsel.
correct. That's right.
That's
Yeah.
correct, yes.
We'll joke.
Having gone through that process for an
Okay.
injured student.
And so related to the idea of these high school A's and B's, if we pass this policy, and one question I have is who figures out the exceptional student and how is that determined besides these tests? For example, can high school A or B decide that they've discovered an exceptional student and come to us? But then likewise, if we pass this policy, but high school A and high school B don't want to do this, then where does it leave the students, and is there any collaboration or advocacy we should do with these partner high schools so that they are open to this possibility?
So we have had some communication with Haldane about this, and they did recently agree to allow it to happen for one student. That was a resolution we voted on last meeting. But ultimately, you know, it requires two cooperating districts. So I think, you know, our approach to this has been to sort of just remove the blocker on our side. You know, how those students are identified, I think it could really be any of the above. It could be, our staff here says this student might, you know, qualify for this. I think the way that it's happening in practice is that students are often hearing from coaches in the partner districts, and those coaches or athletic directors are encouraging them to, you know, to pursue the opportunity. And then, you know, I think the policy will spell out sort of how that has to happen. So they would have to pass the sort of standard physical evaluation that Garrison would do, and then they have to try out and make the team, make the varsity team.
Yeah.
So it would ultimately be up to the coach in the partner program to either say yes or no.
So that, yeah, they'll end up making the final decision on
Yeah,
whether or not
we won't
the
have-
student plays.
Yeah, we'll
We're
have-
just giving the opportunity to any student who gets identified as being exceptional.
Right. So we'll have the role in that sort of, do they meet the floor? So, you know, we think they qualify based on this athletic test, which is a standard test, but then they still have to, you know, still have to make the team. You know?
I think that may be challenging with the 50% playtime thing, like, cause then when someone tries out and gets accepted to the team, we also have this added stipulation that the coach has to guarantee 50%?
No, it's not guaranteed, it's suspected that they have at least 50, and that's in regulations, that's nothing that we're creating, that is the regulation.
Right, so, but those coaches have to,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I will say this, we have to do some work. One of the things that I think we need to be careful about is coaches recruiting for numbers.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, there are some coaches that, and it's come to my attention, and I've had conversations in the past, we do want to protect our modified program. And not every student that plays here is ready for varsity. That student may think so, that coach may think so, but you know, we need to really work closely, which we have been and will continue to do, on what does it mean to be an exceptional athlete that really you should play up, because physically it's not safe for you not to play up, right? Your skill-wise, you're not progressing here. It's like, think about kids that need like multiple advanced placements because academically it's just the content is, you know, they're beyond the content. That's what we're talking about here. So I think one of the things is the relationships we have with those Section 1 partner schools is to really look at this thoughtfully, look at it together, and as Dan says, it takes both districts to have to accept it. It's not just a blanket, anybody can do it. It's on the sport, it's on the season, and both districts have to make a resolution to accept this particular process.
Because it has to be done case by case. Per
It has to be
regulation.
done Yeah, it has to be done, because you have to have a partner, and there's not a blanket open statement saying like, any one of your kids that wants to try it for any one of our teams, they have to make a resolution for that particular season, to open the APP process.
I think for us, you know, because say a parent thinks that their child should probably play up, and they come to us and say, will you give student A the test, or the series of tests? Do we give the series of tests to any student that gets recommended by a parent?
So, and we'll talk a little bit more
Yeah, I don't
when
think
we
we
bat
do
around
right now,
some
but yeah.
language, but it needs to start with our athletic director. That's where the process needs to start. It can't start in another coach's hands that we don't know what the motivation is for asking that kid to play up. It really should be a recommendation to our athletic director. And this is why we need a policy, so our athletic director can follow the policy that the board has adopted, and we have a process. Because right now, we don't have a process, we just have regulation that allows us.
Yeah.
I share the concern too, when we're talking varsity sports, I think it differs a lot by sport, but you have to remember that in a lot of these high school teams, the teams they're playing against, those other students are 17, 18-year-old kids. So to put a 13, 14-year-old out on the court or field or whatever with them, the chance of injury does vary by sport and how brutal those are. It's very different in cheerleading, say, where they want them for flyers because they're light, versus like, it's true, versus when they want them on a basketball court or a soccer field. So just to be mindful also of like the liability and injury.
Wait, can I just do two more quick ones? They're really quick, because with transportation, I know that we sometimes go to high school A and high school B after school, so can't they also join those rides? It's not always the parent's responsibility. It's like if they're going there anyway, can't they hitch a ride? Okay.
The challenge is because there's like, let's say, court time that they have to share, like sometimes practices don't start till 4:45. Right?
I just
So
want to
if-
make sure that they can
yeah,
hitch a ride.
If we have an existing run, which we do, we have no problem
Yeah.
on our existing run. I think the issue is we can't start spending money on
Yeah.
individual bus runs for individual sports.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the difference. But yes, if we have a shuttle already going, absolutely.
And then my only other question was like, was going to be, how do we communicate this all to everybody? But it sounds like we don't, because it's up to the AD, the athletic director, to really be the one, once we get the policy in place, to really be the one to initiate this process, right? Because at first I was like, oh, should we let people know that now Garrison is opening this opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, I think this, these meetings are the first part of that communication. We're developing the policy. I think, once the policy process is complete, then, we'll talk about it again. But I do really think of it just as like, Garrison is just sort of, not going to be a blocker. But this whole process has to be initiated through the athletic director, through, the parents. I mean, this is not necessarily something where sort of floodgates are open. It's just that if the exceptional case arises, then, we will, do our part to allow the opportunity to proceed, as long as, it meets some minimum thresholds.
The numbers are going to be so low.
Yeah.
One grade. That can do this. Eighth
It's only
grade.
one grade. I agree.
So it's going to be very few and far between.
Might we ask folks, because I'm thinking fall sports might lose out a little bit, because many of the eighth graders don't think about high school until, I don't know if there's any way to. But it's up to the
I
AD.
understand, but I also think, choosing your high school in the summer means you can't do tours with students there and things like that, so it kind of takes away from that part, but, they can designate that if they want to play a fall sport and you're selected and all that.
I think if the AD is aware of the policy and the opportunity, they're going to be on the lookout for it. Exceptional athletes probably want this to happen for them.
Yeah, and it is something that's come up, in the past, right? So I think for the kids that are on the bubble, like they know, right? It's something that they're coming to the district about. That's my impression.
So thank you, this was very helpful, and it's gonna take us a while to develop a policy to bring to the board, but we wanted to start with getting everyone's input on these questions.
Great, thanks, Jen. Okay. Moving on to item 9B, which is planning committee report with Jocelyn.
Thanks. Planning committee just met right before this meeting.
Jennifer, Sarah, Dr. Stoll, and Mike were there. And pretty much 2 updates, because impressively, they're working, administration along with faculty and community members are working on both curriculum mapping and the 5-year environmental educational plan. And I can't believe the progress personally at how far you've come and the goals that you've set that frankly probably will be achieved, just given how much you've done so far. So the curriculum mapping, you know, you spent some time at it at the PD day last week, but I understand that the middle school teachers are fully mapping their own, you know, subjects that they teach across all grades, and the elementary school teachers are going to be fully mapping, hopefully by the end of this school year, both math and ELA. Math maybe being a little bit simpler because we do have a school-wide envision program. But because of the tools that you've given the faculty and the time that you're giving them, they all seem like they're on board, and I think that that's exciting that they are wanting to do this. And I think that it's also, as we discussed, opening up opportunities to kind of cross-pollinate different disciplines across different grades, even perhaps, but you know, just getting folks to really think about how everything is interconnected. They are also, besides being like this kind of behind-the-scenes true curriculum map for the faculty and administration to have, there will also be something that's more public-facing, eventually available to parents, families, community members, so that they can see what they might want to expect out of their students and their school throughout the year. And maybe by next school year, we'll have some of that available for math and ELA. And it's exciting to think that everyone will kind of have this open communication about what the district's doing. And I mean, I've been on the board for a few years, and we always talk about mapping, or we always kind of want mapping, and I know other districts have mapping, but this is very exciting and big for Garrison. I appreciate everyone working on it. And I'll just quickly talk about the 5-year plan, and then you can chime in if you want, either of you. But the 5-year environmental education plan is also underway. Have planned 4 meetings for the year, already met once, and it consists of admin and teachers and community member. It will eventually get input from students and from more teachers. Hopefully in your December meeting, they'll be putting together goals and objectives, and by the end of June, there will be a 5-year environmental education plan to share with the board and the public. And this is just a testament to like all the work that we've done in the past, getting the Green Ribbon Award, you know, hiring an environmental educator, having the forest, doing the forest classroom work that we're going to be embarking on. So I don't know how you actually have time to be working on both of these major things, especially you, Mike. But it sounds like it's making a lot of progress. So, I mean, I don't sound excited ever, so don't take it. Let Sarah say something. But I'm trying to convey how, you know, you guys are working on this. It's really great.
Yeah, I'm really excited by all of this. I feel like we've been building towards this for years. Just one thing to note, I was really pleased to see the community involvement on the environmental education committee. It's wonderful to have community members come out and lend their voice. It's a great way to sort of foster our goal of service. And I think it helps when those meetings are really well led, very focused, and they feel like something exciting is going to happen. So,
She sounds so much more
Yes,
excited.
and I was
I
there,
excited really
but
well.
I was really excited that student voice is being included as well.
Can I ask a dumb question? Maybe what does a curriculum map actually look like?
This is I'm so excited.
Or someday could I see?
I don't know if I can match Sarah's enthusiasm about curriculum. But essentially it outlines by unit throughout the year what standards are covered, and then key knowledge and skills in all of our different courses.
Is it like this weekly or?
No, so it won't break down to like a daily level or weekly level, but unit-wise, which I mean it varies from course to course, but it could break down to like every 3 to 6 weeks, depending on how long a unit of study is. and then just kind of captures what standards are covered in that unit, and then what key knowledge and skills would be covered. And internally, teachers will have more daily and weekly tools for their planning purposes, but the public facing wouldn't go any more granular than the unit level.
Anything else? Great. Thank you, Jocelyn. Thank you, everybody. It is very exciting work. I think we're all very excited about it. It's definitely one of the most exciting parts of being on the board, I think, is this kind of stuff. So thank you for everybody that's working on it. Okay, we're moving on to item 10, which is approval of the CSE CPSE recommendations. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District approve the Committee on Special Education and Committee on Preschool Special Education recommendations and student placements. May I have a motion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Item 11. This is policy readings. First reading of policy 5413, procurement of UGG federal awards. This is the one that Jen just spoke about, right?
Mhm.
Any other questions from anybody on this first reading? We will tee it up for a second reading as well. Okay. Any other comments? Moving on to new business, item 12. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, does hereby approve the new business items as presented. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we've got a few items here. Greg, is there anything you want to highlight?
Just probably the most exciting one on here is the new club, the debate club. If you give our kids an opportunity to tell you what they want to learn and do, they'll do it. And so this will be, is it our third new club in less than 2 years? So our students came to Ms. Valvano, said we really want a debate club. So this debate club this is like a legit debate club that is going to compete with other middle schools. And so Ms. Valvano is offering to be the advisor, and there's a group of a lot of kids. So this allows us to establish this club. They have a charter that is shared with the board. I support it. I think it's going to be a really incredible opportunity for our middle school students.
Great.
And we have a debate program. So how does this connect with the debate program?
Well, I will tell you, like, Ms. Valvano does some debate and, like, taking sides on different issues around history and things like that. But this will formalize where they'll actually really work on debate styles, how to present an argument in a precise and concise way, and then talk about, like, what does an actual debate competition look like, and then have an opportunity. Because a lot of high schools do have debate teams pretty successfully, so this just gives our kids an opportunity that maybe some of their peers, when they get to Haldane or Putnam Valley or Neal, have already had in middle school, and ours don't. So this will give them an opportunity to actually look like a real debate competition with the rules and all of that. So that's how it differs, that it's actually preparing them for debate competitions.
I just wanted to ask, David Gilbert, a previous board member, somebody who will remember, asked for a debate for years and years, and that came to the course. That's sort of how that came about. If you wouldn't mind sending him a note, Greg, on
Sure.
behalf of the board, because as much as I ask our former board members to watch our current board meetings, I don't know that they do. So I think he would really appreciate it, and it shows how advocating time after time can really continue to lead to change. So thank you for bringing that. Although I do think, while that is exciting, one of the other really exciting items on here was the annual external audit corrective action response.
Yeah,
Throw that in there.
I can speak to those if you want. So every year, when they do the audit, they come up with some items that they feel need to be improved. So we have to develop a corrective action plan for those items. So there's 3 that are listed here. The first one is essentially a mechanism of us being small. That there's really not a way to separate all duties between all the people. So there are compensating controls that we mentioned in the corrective action as to how we get around that. So when there is only a couple of people that can change and modify payroll information or vendor information, but all that information has to be then signed off by me, and that's the compensating control. So next year, when they're looking at our audit, and they're auditing us, we're gonna point them in the direction to show them all the compensating controls we have. The second item, it has to do with extra classroom activity funds, and really this corrective action is a result of one of the items in their sample. There was a request for reimbursement that actually was less than the items that were on the receipts, and so we're going to double check their math so that they don't shortchange themselves. That's what that one is. And then the third item is one that's been on our radar for a number of years in the audit reports. We are above the recommended level for 4% of undesignated fund balance, and we're going to look at that in a couple of ways. We're going to increase it, reserves where necessary, and then we're also going to do, as a part of the budget process and the financial planning that Greg mentioned, we're going to look at how much we can use of the designated fund balance to support next year's budget to reduce the tax burden. So that's the corrective action pieces.
Pretty much as squeaky clean as it gets, I think, right?
Oh, yeah. It's a great audit.
Yes. Great. Anything else? Any questions on any of the new business items or comments? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Moving on to item 13 is the personnel items consent agenda. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, hereby approves the items of the personnel consent agenda as presented. May I have a motion?
Second.
Greg, do you want to speak to these?
Yeah, just very briefly, I'd like to thank our advisors for, again, working with our students, so you'll see an appointment of advisors this evening. And lastly, we did finally secure somebody, and Emily Connors, as a non-certified sub to work with us, hopefully with the board's approval starting tomorrow at the current rates established today. So we hope that this keeps this person. I met with Emily. She definitely has some experience working with students and is really excited to work here, and has plans on being a either early elementary or early childhood educator and is in school for it. Though she's not certified, we're getting people that really want the experience as they go to school to become teachers, and these are the exact people we want working with their kids. So hopefully, if all goes well with this vote, we can welcome Emily in tomorrow.
Great. We are excited to have her, and thank you to Ms. Johnson, Mr. Roman, and Ms. Albano for volunteering for signing up for the advisory positions as well. Any questions or comments on personnel items? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? This is our second public comment section. I'm not going to read it again. If there's anybody that would like to address the board, you may do so now. Otherwise, we will move on. Moving on. To item 15, board member comment. Jocelyn, you go first.
Just of course want to thank Pete and team.
Eric?
Yeah, same, just a heartfelt thanks again to Peter and team also.
Okay.
I would like to also, we wrote it. Peter, so thank you. I'm very excited to see what will come of this very generous donation.
I already thanked Pete. Pete? And myself?
Well, thank you to the board for all the kind words. Thank you to Tina for a wonderful little talk. And thanks to Greg and Mike for really thinking this through really well and pushing everyone to think about how this can fit into the curriculum, how it will be used, and it's not just there because the money is there and we can't say no to the money, it's there to really help students, and I'm glad that this is gonna be an ongoing, like, relationship that we can build on over time. So thank you for all your good ideas, and I think the best is yet to come.
Thanks, Sarah.
Again, thank you to Steve and Tina, and also thank you to our staff, both administrative and teachers, for being willing to embrace what this offers and think a little bit outside the box as to what else they can do. I think we've seen a lot of that this year, the teachers really being willing to think in different directions, and I just want to say thank you to them for their willingness to go above and beyond. I also wanted to congratulate our partner high school, Putnam Valley, won this game day cheerleading state championship this past weekend, and we have a number of kids in that program, so congratulations to the cheerleaders for winning states. I think there's a bunch of other state competitions coming up. That was one of the earlier ones that some of the high schools have teams still in competitions for.
Great, thank you, Sarah. So we do have executive session tonight. So item 16 is be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union School District hereby enters into executive session for the purpose of receiving legal counsel and discussing collective bargaining negotiations with SRP and GTA pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law. May I have a motion?
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We will adjourn the meeting without further action taken.